Joe Burrow launches his foundation, plus we answer your questions in a rare in-season mailbag.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Lisco. He's your host, James Rapine. Together, we're the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you coverage of your team every day, free and available everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We appreciate every single one of you who subscribe, who engage with the Twitter account and the week mailbag we got going on right now, the midweek mailbag, I should say, and who subscribe on YouTube, all those good things, and especially those of you who make us your first listen. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. And James, before we dive into the mailbag, Joe Burrow has launched the Joe Burrow Foundation. And when Joe Burrow moves, we talk about it. This is in line with the efforts Joe Burrow has made in terms of trying to make a positive impact on the world, going back to his Heisman speech and probably even things before that that we're not aware of. But the Joe Burrow Foundation will be focused on Ohio and Louisiana. And the mission statement to do good is focused on helping children with mental illnesses and helping those experiencing food insecurity. So very in line with the food insecurity topic that we've heard Joe Burrow talk about before, and the mental illness coming from his mom's experience working in schools.
Yeah, I think both do, really. And this is awesome. You know, the fact that Robin Burrow, a teacher, which is one of the most thankless professions on the planet, certainly in America. And so she's got a firsthand look at things. And clearly Joe paid attention. Clearly Joe, growing up, was doing all the right things, but was also listening. And it's awesome to see someone that deals with the pressure that he's dealing with as a third-year quarterback, the expectations that he's dealing with now following that Super Bowl run. I mean, expectations are as high for this Bengals team as they've ever been, ever, for a Bengals team, to be quite honest. I actually think that that's accurate. So, like a Joe Burrow pass, huh? So the fact that he was able to do that and deal with all that and tell all of us to relax, and behind the scenes, he's launching this foundation that's backed by all of these different chair members that are, in the corporate world and are going to be able to help and get things going. And one, you already know it's going to be a huge smashing success. Two, there aren't many young people. I mean, think about it. Joe Burrow is 25. And I know, like, for a third-year quarterback, that's kind of – Joe Burrow is 25 years old. And so for him to do this, it's awesome. And I know it's going to impact so many people. And so, yeah, you're right. When Joe Burrow does things, we lead with it. We talk about it. And I'm excited to talk about this one because the football part, there's ups, there's downs, all of those things. There aren't going to be many downs with this. It's going to be all ups, and it's going to help a lot of people. And I know Bengals fans are already donating at joeburrow.org. For those wondering, it's pretty easy. We navigated the site before we started recording, and it's a pretty cool site. There's a video with Jimmy and Robin Burrow there as well. So, look, Joe Burrow's doing good. Guess what? We want to do good. So, of course, we're going to give him love anytime we can when it comes to that foundation, the Joe Burrow Foundation.
Yeah, we spread the word before when there have been cool foundation launches or big donation drives that we've seen spring up in the Bengals fan community. And like you said, James, fans donating, a lot of folks doing $9, which for number 9, I think that's pretty cool. And we've seen the outpour of support from Bengals fans before. So an opportunity to contribute to doing good here alongside the Bengals quarterback, the Bengals starting quarterback, that it's even going to hit locally. And that's what's an added bonus for this, for people who are in Ohio, were LSU fans that are now Bengals fans, that are just Joe Burrow fans. You're hitting your own communities as well. And I do think that's pretty important. And seeing the young man, Joe Burrow, making a positive impact. Hard to not be impressed with the way that he does this sort of thing.
And the fact that it's, and we need to see it, of course, but just looking at it, this isn't just a site that was thrown together. This was something that was very calculated. I know that the Bengals were aware of it, all of those things. Obviously, they were the ones that announced it along with Burrow at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. And look, it's awesome. And when the face of the franchise, the guy that changed the trajectory of the franchise, the guy that's completely breathed life, literally and figuratively, however you want to say it, into an organization that was kind of walking in place is insane. And so the fact that he was able to do that and has been able to do that, and now he's going to have an even bigger impact on the community, it's awesome to see. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what good they do. And I'm also excited to talk with Joe about it on Wednesday, because he's going to talk, and you better believe that he's probably going to have a good quote or two in there about his foundation.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be asked about it. And it's nice to cover some of the do-gooder stuff going on with the team. It's not all football. It's a nice reminder these guys are humans. They have passions outside of football in addition to the sport. And in this case, they've got a good one. And they've got many good ones using his platform for good. James, let's sneak in a question real quick here before we dive into the mailbag in earnest. Our first question in this mailbag today is going to come from Michael Vinoy at Michael Vinoy6 on Twitter. He wants to know if the Bengals should take the ball first when they win the coin toss from here on out, as their 2 wins have come in consecutive games when they've received the opening kick.
It's easy to say yes. And of course, I'm all about being aggressive and trying to get a lead. And it's a great decision to take the ball when you go score.
Mm-hmm.
It's also about as deflating can get if you're at M&T Bank Stadium and the crowd is going wild and you got, purple and black and all the Ravens colors in the stands, and it's going crazy. And Joe Burrow comes out and the offense goes 3 and out. And you look across and there's number 8 walking onto the field. Just like that, boom, advantage flips. Mm-hmm. So it's real easy for me to say, yeah, hell yeah, take the ball and go and throw it deep to Chase. And if T. Higgins is singled up and go score, I also understand why you defer, and a lot of teams defer. And I would expect the Bengals to defer on Sunday against Lamar Jackson, against that powerful offense, because one, they believe in their defense. And that's part of it. Do you defer when you believe in your defense? Yeah, that's part of it. And the other part is if you can double dip and get some points at the end of the half, get the ball back to start the third quarter without Lamar Jackson seeing the field, sign me up for that. That could completely swing a game. So I understand the strategy, and I think they'll get back to that on Sunday if they win the coin toss.
I think deferring generally is more strategically advantageous than receiving the opening kick. You're right, James. When you can go down there and score, it's great. But you saw it against Miami. Miami scores going into the half, gets the ball coming out of the half, and suddenly there's a swing. And so the Bengals last year, you're very familiar with this if you've been a fan of the team for more than their Super Bowl run, were great in and out of the half. They would score often going into the half. They were really good on that first drive in the third quarter. And to your further point, James, the confidence in the defense, I think that's well founded. Ben Baldwin today putting out his defensive success rate through week 4. The Bengals are the best defense in the league at preventing first downs. Touchdowns or first downs coming on only 62% of first down series for this team. That is generally the definition of success rate. They're preventing first downs very well. And so when you have a team like that who can get off the field, and they've gotten off the field this year, they're not giving up touchdowns very often. They're keeping teams out of the end zone. When you can do that, it makes sense. And you also saw the pitfalls of turning it over on your first drive. The Bengals throwing a pick 6 on their first drive, against the Steelers, and you see Tampa Bay turning it over on their first drive. That can turn into a bit of a nightmare. More to get into in this mailbag, James. We've got a bunch of great questions today from our treasured listeners. We'll continue that coming up next.
But first, a word from LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster so you can hire the best staff possible, especially this fall. And I get it. The holidays are coming up. You're going to need some extra help. Well, you can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. And they have simple tools, screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with the right skills, the right experience to make the right hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs is here to help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn every single week. That's 40 million. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl, linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
James, did you know that Baltimore has the #1 offense in the NFL by weighted DVOA? Actually, it's not weighted yet, by DVOA. So,
I
fun
didn't know that.
challenge for the
Yeah.
Bengals offense this week. Going into the week, Miami, and even after week 4, Miami #2 in DVOA. And I know they lost Tua, and that matters, but the Bengals defense stood up to that task. So excited to see how they do against Baltimore.
Yeah, this is a different one. This is a different animal, different task. That animal is Lamar Jackson. And there's so many people. He's probably the most polarizing player in the league because people either want to crown him, the best quarterback ever, or people want to rip him and say he's not going to last. And yet, when I watch, he's making big plays. And it might not be traditional, but he's making big plays. And you're right. The Ravens averaging, by the way, what's my number for offense, for elite offense? It's points, baby. I look at 30. Can you get the 30? The Ravens are right there. They're not exactly there, but they're right there. So, yeah, they've been really good offensively, despite not having great weapons. Right? They got one of the best weapons in Lamar Jackson in the NFL. So it's going to be an interesting test, and we'll dive into the minutia of this. I think Akeem Davis-Gaither. Remember we talked a couple years ago when he was drafted? I think he's played pretty well the past couple of weeks.
Yes.
Wonder if he could help out in the Lamar stopping range of things.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to stopping Lamar. It's not just one player. It's never just one player. It's a discipline of the defense, I think, is a big part of this. So this actually ties in great with the next question we'll take. This is from Andrea Lenz at SwissBaller on Twitter. What makes the defense so good right now? Is it loose game plan? Is it the talent of the players? Is it a mixture of both? And I'm going to throw in another caveat here. Is it the quality of the offenses and the quarterbacks that Bengals have played, James?
It's all of it, right? It is. In the saying the truth is somewhere in the middle. How good is the Bengals defense versus the offenses they've played? Well, I don't think they've played great offenses. And you look at those quarterbacks, and I don't think that's really much of a take, especially because Tua didn't play, for the majority of that game. And so with that said, this Bengals defense, pre-Reader injury, there weren't many weaknesses. There were things that you'd say, depth-wise, it'd be nice to have another pass rusher. It'd be nice to get a little more heat, but there's no big, glaring, oh my God, what are they going to do at this spot? Now there is a bit because you're missing your best player on defense in my eyes, but still, there's no, oh my goodness, the Bengals are going to attack, our opposing teams are going to attack who? Eli Apple? Good luck. Mm-hmm. He's playing great. Are you for Eli Apple? He's not playing like a Pro Bowl corner, but he's playing like a great,
he's playing
a solid #2 corner. Mm-hmm. And so when you're doing that, and that's the weak link of your secondary, think about that. We're talking about what is he in the pecking order? He's behind both safeties, both corners, both linebackers. And so if we're talking about the 8th guy on your defense, in your back 7, all right, or the 7th guy on your back 7, you feel good about it. Yeah, I know that was funny, but you get what I'm saying, right? We focus on Eli Apple. He's been pretty good. He got beat by who?
We haven't talked about him this year.
Noah Brown. He got beat by Noah Brown. Guess what? Noah Brown's made catches every week for the Cowboys since then. It's not just Eli. He's 85 for the Cowboys, has played pretty well. So yeah, I think that's part of it. There's no clear weakness, and they're really good in a lot of areas, even without Reader. And so I expect them to be solid this week again. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were against Miami. Holding a team like the Ravens to just one touchdown, I think that's, especially on the road, that's not realistic.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on with Rashad Bateman. I think that's a huge deal for the Ravens offense. I don't think there's necessarily a reason to expect him to miss the game, but if he can't go, I think that does matter a lot. Then you're back to worse than last year's weapons for Lamar Jackson when this offense did at times have a hard time getting things going. Now, for Lou Anarumo's defense, there are a couple things that I think are worth highlighting. One, they're not blitzing a ton, but this was pointed out. I think Bengals Sands Mike pointed out this graph on Twitter. When they are blitzing, the Bengals are getting home with pressure. So well-timed blitzes, picking strategic spots to do it, and getting great pressure when they do so. And you've seen this being Mike Hilton. You've seen this be Akeem Davis-Gaither at times. You've seen this be just creepers where they're dropping Trey Hendrickson into coverage or Sam Hubbard into coverage and getting a matchup that they want by blitzing or rushing somebody from the other side. I think that part of the design of the defense has been really good this year. I think that generally speaking, between Lou Anarumo and the way that he's coaching this defense and the way they're playing very disciplined football right now, especially in the back seven. And that goes to what you're talking about, James, where you look at the players and there's no glaring weakness necessarily, although I think the pass rush does leave something to be desired, especially on the interior, but they're still getting the job done. They're still getting pressure. They're taking advantage more in the last 2 weeks and the first couple of weeks of the season of some of those matchups. Sam Hubbard bullying a subpar right tackle for the Dolphins last week. Trey Hendrickson getting some wins and being disruptive against one of the best left tackles in the league in Terran Armstead. So you're seeing a complete effort of a defense that top to bottom is solid, if not better than solid. Having Chidobe Awuzie as a corner, I think, gives the Bengals a lot of confidence to do a lot of creative things elsewhere. I think the same for their safeties, where you just have these guys that are smart, that are disciplined, that have great film study habits, and allows you to incorporate a relatively complex and amorphous defense because they're so familiar with it. And I think it's really well coached. And so I have a lot of praise for the way this defense is run, the way this defense is coached. And like I said, I think that this discipline matters a lot when you talk about Lamar Jackson. You go back to the Miami game, there's a few plays where the pass rush does a poor job of containing Teddy Bridgewater. They're not really worried about containing Teddy Bridgewater. Like, his threat to run, his escapability, his second reaction playmaking is not something that you game plan for or necessarily worry about, but you need to do a much better job of that against Lamar Jackson, certainly. And so that'll be something to watch this week with how the pass rush attacks Baltimore.
I will not debate you there. Lamar Jackson, faster than Teddy Bridgewater, more
Hot
dynamic than Teddy Bridgewater.
Where's your hot take chain?
Don't need the chain for that, bad boy. You don't need the Schultz and Sons take chain for that one. Real quick, let's get to Spartan at Nobody Spartan. What's up with the 2 spots on the 53-man roster? I haven't seen the Bengals sign anyone. They could use the next few weeks to kick the tires on some other teams' practice squad players. Jake, your thoughts?
Yeah, where's that speedy receiver? Talked about for how long? What about that defensive line? I mean, there's guys out there, right? These will probably be for players coming off of injured reserve. I don't know if they will necessarily fill them this week. I would have thought that we would have seen that by now, but we could see some guys getting activated off of injured reserve this week. Yeah. I think that is possible.
Yeah, I think Cam Taylor-Britt, keep an eye on him. I think Joe Bocci's getting close. We'll see. And I think we'll find out Wednesday. Another one, Tyson Anderson. He looks good to me, so we'll see. I mean, and the other part of this is, are you going to use them? Or when are you going to use them? All of those things. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think we would have, if it was an outside candidate, I think we would have found out by now. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. is at Paycor Stadium right now. I just don't think that that's realistic, and I don't think that's likely, even though he did visit the Giants, which was really weird.
Odell Beckham Jr., huh?
It was a joke. I picked the biggest name out there. Is there a bigger name?
No.
Okay. I mean,
not to my knowledge.
I could say Terrell Owens if you want, or, Chad Johnson was at Paycor last week.
You do think those guys can still play in the NFL? More questions in our midweek, I should say, mailbag coming up next.
They probably still can play in the NFL. And if you want to wager on the NFL, speaking of that, you got to get the BetOnline, because BetOnline is your number one source for all things football betting, whether it is college football, whether it is the NFL, whether it is the Bengals winning the AFC North. Maybe you want a future bet on them winning it all this year. Joe Burrow for MVP. Is he getting back to it after back-to-back games without a turnover? 6 touchdowns the past 2 games. You never know. Joey B looking more like himself. Right now, regardless of what you want to wager on, you should go to BetOnline right now. Sign up for free, and whether it's college football, the NFL, Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, golf, they got you covered at BetOnline. You can sign up for free today at BetOnline, where the game starts.
James, our next question in the mailbag is big.
Big
question from the Magic Man at Thoughts Bengals on Twitter. Who can eat more chicken wings?
Flats or drums?
For me, flats. I prefer flats.
Of course you do. Of course you do. We're perfect. We can order them. We don't have to specify. I'll eat the drums. You eat the flats. Bone in or boneless?
I'll eat bone in. I'll eat either. I don't care. I like chicken. I'll eat bone in wings for sure. I love bone in wings.
I don't care. I don't really get the debate. Like, people get so mad, like, boneless or tenders. Yeah, whatever. They're chicken and they taste good. Like,
it's still
like
chicken.
sauce.
Yeah, it's still tasty chicken. I don't care.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I'm indifferent there. I was asking all of these questions. I don't really know why. It doesn't matter. I think we just have to have a wing contest. So if anybody wants to sponsor the Locked On Bengals wing contest when Jake comes to town next, we'll do it and we'll live stream it and we'll see who can eat more wings, because I think I'm going to say me and you're probably going to say you. And so it's kind of silly if we just sit here and debate when we could actually have the contest. So someone locally, hopefully, should sponsor it. And who knows, maybe we'll make that work.
I would also be down for some sort of chili eating festivities.
I'm still shocked we don't have a local chili sponsor, to be honest. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn or anything. I would love to promote some Cincinnati style chili regularly.
I make it regularly at home. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about the intricacies. Let's get back to football questions, James. Houday Mailman at Houday Mailman would like to know, does T. Higgins finish with better stats this season than Jamar Chase?
No. Everyone's on the T train, and I get it because T's a freak. He's a freak. I try to tell everybody at camp that the dude looked a little different this year than even last year. I mean, he's freakish. The touchdown that was a touchdown that didn't count as a touchdown against the Jets is one of the freakiest plays ever. And the more you look at different angles and stuff, no, I don't think he does. And I don't think he does because, and maybe he does. Maybe NFL defenses are just idiots. But at some point, you're going to say, okay, all right, T, calm down a little bit. And the Bengals are going to try to get Jamar touches. And as good as T is, Jamar is more versatile. They're going to find ways to get him the ball and pepper in the ball in other ways. So I think it's going to be close. I think both guys are going to crush the 1,000-yard mark. I think both guys are going to crush the, how high do I want to go here? 1,200-yard mark, 1,300-yard mark. They're going to be talked about nationally as arguably the best duo in the NFL. They might be the best duo in the NFL, but I think Chase could go for 300 on Sunday. He's different, dude. Like what he did against the Chiefs, like Jamar doesn't need much. Like he had some not super unproductive games is the word I was looking for. Unproductive games last year, and he still finished with 1,455 yards. Last week felt bad, and he still had 80-plus yards. I think he's going to be fine. And again, there's nothing to do with T. T's going to be fine too.
Here's something fun for you, James. In games that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase have played together.
Here we go.
2021, 2022. This is a tweet from Dwayne McFarland, so I'm going to give him credit here. 160 targets for T. Higgins, 144 targets for Jamar Chase in that time when they're both on the field. 109 receptions for T. Higgins, 95 receptions for Jamar Chase in that time. 1,675 yards for T. Higgins, 1,574 yards for Jamar Chase. So far, T. Higgins wins every single category. 10 touchdowns each. So no separation there. So far this year, Jamar Chase, 41 targets to T. Higgins, 28 targets.
Mhm.
And I know T has missed half
Missed
a
time.
game,
Yep.
but
And that's when
a
Jamar was
lot,
peppered with targets too. Go
a
ahead.
lot more opportunity for Chase. But until the Bengals figure out how to get Chase loose downfield, and T. Higgins is the beneficiary of those, right? Right now, on an average per catch basis, Tyler Boyd has more yards per catch than Jamar Chase. In what world does that make any sense, right? When you look at the way these guys play and where their targets come, I know Tyler Boyd caught a bomb last week. T. Higgins, obviously, more yards per catch than Jamar Chase because he has more yards, 315 to 293, despite Jamar having 5 more catches. So season young. All I'm saying is, and I do expect Jamar Chase to get going, is that T. Higgins is really good and can certainly push Jamar Chase in this category, especially if teams continue to devote these resources, their number one corner in all these brackets on Jamar Chase's side of the field.
Sure. Well, if they do that, then yeah.
Yeah,
Because
T will punish you for it.
Because T's a number one as well. Yeah. And so that's my point. Are teams really going to be that? Maybe they are. And then, yeah, T will feast. But if you flipped it, Jamar would have embarrassed Xavier Howard last week too. Right.
Mhm.
Like it would have been, to me, it would have been the same. And it's just pick your poison type thing. And that's the fun of it. Because when I look at these teams, right, that are like, oh yeah, we're Super Bowl contenders. I'll talk about the Packers. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Guess what I don't care about? Your stupid running backs. That ain't getting you to the Super Bowl. You know what is? Burrow to Chase and Higgins. And boy,
Yeah, we saw it last year.
That's such a difference maker, right? Part of the reason why the Rams are struggling right now, no one's getting open besides Cooper Kupp. Part of it's the offensive line, but guess what? They have no one else getting open. It's Cooper Kupp, and no, I don't know what's up with Allen Robinson if they don't trust him or what. The point is the Bengals, yeah, they're 2-2. The offense is a little slow and stuff. When you have 1 in 85 and 9 throwing them the ball, and then a guy in 83, that good luck if you're going to just ignore him and just pay attention to those other 2 guys. Someone's going to be open. I think it balances out by the end of the year. We'll see if it does.
I just want to add on to that real quick. Like, you put T. Higgins or Jamar Chase on Green Bay or on Buffalo even, and I know Buffalo has some weapons already. You put one of those guys on one of those 2 teams, and those offenses are completely different. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
I just wanted to add on to your point about
how
good the weapons are.
Both of those guys, Chase and T, are number ones in Green Bay by about 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then in in Buffalo, of course, Stephon Diggs is a freak. But then it's a 1-1A situation again, right? Where they're
exactly
both
with
like
that
they
offense.
are here.
Right.
And so that's what the Bengals have. And so that's why their offensive output to this point has been a little underwhelming. It's also why I'm pretty optimistic that they can get going and hit that 30-point mark, maybe for the first time this week in Baltimore. All right. One more question here on the offense. Drew Magoto asks, Cordell Volson. What's the honest assessment of Cordell Volson so far? Seems like some metrics say he's been solid, while others say, in general, he's been pretty underwhelming. What do you think?
I think he's been fine. And I think he's going to play left guard for this team for a while.
Yep.
And I think there's a reason that Jackson Carman has been inactive for Max Sharping lately. I mean, Jackson has to really turn his career around at this point. But Cordell Volson, I think, is solidified as left guard. I know he has had some mistakes. There's some things that, every week he's getting beat a couple times here or there. He's making some rookie mistakes, but he's a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
The mistakes are not as frequent as we've seen from the guard positions on one side or the other in recent years, I would say, depending on the player there. And you can very easily see the upside with Volson, the attitude he carries himself with, the discipline that he tries to approach the game with, that he brings to practice as he tries to improve his craft. I think there's a lot to like with Cordell, despite what PFF grading might say. He is a somewhat limited athlete. He is a rookie making a big leap from North Dakota State to the NFL. But I think he's been solid for my rewatches of this offense, despite what PFF grading might tell you. And so, is he Zach Martin out there? No, but he's pretty good. I mean, he's good enough. I think he's not my primary concern right now on this offensive line. Maybe he will be in a few weeks, but he's not right now.
And that is awesome because coming into this year, it was, oh my gosh, what are they going to do at left guard? And when they drafted Cordell Volson, let's be honest, all of us were like, North Dakota State, that's it. That's the guy that's going to push Jackson Carman. And it turns out everybody pushed Jackson Carman right over and got into the backfield. And so that's why it opened up the door for Cordell Volson in the first place. No, I think he's been solid. There were some that asked about, I guess, Quentin Spain was around, and that keeps coming up. That I'm telling you, it's Cordell Volson's job. It's not Jackson Carman's. He's not even in line for that now. And Max Sharping is past him, which was I think, pretty predictable when they claimed Sharping and won him on waivers and were awarded him. So, look, I like what Volson's doing. Of course, he's going to make some mistakes. What rookie doesn't? What 24-year-old doesn't? I think he's mature. Talking with him on and off the record, I think he gets it. I think he's one of those guys that you're going to look up, and in 2032, he's looking at a 10-plus year career and has just been in the league. And who knows if it's all in Cincinnati or not. But I just think he's going to be one of those dudes that understands it, carries himself the right way, does the right things, and he's going to be a starter for a long, long time, starting with this year. I'm not really worried about left guard. Is he going to be perfect? No. He's going to make mistakes on Sunday against the Ravens. I get that. I also think that the Bengals see the potential. They'll let him take his lumps, and he's going to continue to improve week in and week out.
Yeah, he's faced some really good competition to start the year. That continues this week, by the way. One of the better defensive interiors, not necessarily like a terrifying Aaron Donald type, but Elias Campbell, Justin Madubuike with the Ravens have both been really good to start this season for the most part. So another fun test for him. And he does have room for improvement. He needs to cut down on some of the penalties. 3 penalties in 4 games. Gotta figure out a couple of plays where you're really scratching your head. But I have not seen anything alarming from him. And I feel like, comparing him to like Jackson Carman last year, who was also struggling in his rookie year, we saw alarming things. I think a little bit too frequently there. And I'm not seeing them with Volson really the same way. Again, that can change. We're only 4 games in. We'll see where things go. And, again, it's a fun test this week. Tomorrow, speaking of that fun test, we're going to get into our crossover Thursday episode. We're going to be joined by Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens. Dive into this matchup as we transition our attention to week 5 and Ravens week number 1, second primetime game in a row, which may have last happened in 2015, according to some Twitter birdies. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. We appreciate you listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.